We are recording. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today in person and online. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you, Jamie and Microsoft, for hosting us at this great event. It's always a pleasure having an event, in person and hybrid. Such a beautiful building and beautiful views. And I just want to extend our thank you. So, just a little bit about ourselves and our community. So, I'm George Soto, co-founder of Deep Learning Adventures, a fun, engaging community members around the country and around the world. I have my colleagues online here, David and Robert. And it's good to see so many of you here today. And again, this session is recorded. So on Meetup, you'll probably find us on Meetup. This is our page here. We have a few links for those of you who are joining us for the first time, including our YouTube page, which has more generative AI type of sessions. So we started a new playlist. And just for more context, we started this whole adventure 4 years ago. So we were doing this. We've had about 120 sessions so far in over 4 years. Got to see what works, what doesn't work. We do hands-on projects. We have invited guest speakers. We share what we've seen in our industry, maybe some hackathons that we do every now and then. But there's a lot of events here that we've done. The latest one was several courses from Deep Learning AI from Andrew Ng's resources. And the last one, David presented Llama Index, which again, we're going to do a deeper dive on it just to see how Llama Index works and how can you incorporate it. I want to say that Deep Learning Adventures is part of Data Community DC, which is a larger organization. We have around 15,000 members. As you can see here, we have data scientists, data viz, generative AI, statistical seminars, and so forth. Again, the whole point of this is, as a nonprofit organization, which I happen to be on the board of, is to spread knowledge, spread resources, get you up to speed with what is happening in the latest and greatest, and most importantly, have fun, right? We don't want to just do a type of boring presentation here. This will be engaging, so I'll pause. I'll ask you for questions, I'll ask you for prompts, this will be engaging. And speaking of upcoming events, after this, I think Generative AI has a session, and then tomorrow, Data Science DC has an event. So let me go here. That's the Generative AI session right after this. And then tomorrow, the World Bank, partnering with the World Bank, they have a need for data. They have hundreds of countries joining them, right? Collaborating with them. They have a need for data analysis. So if you want to practice your coding skills, this is a good place to start. They have sessions on poverty, right? They have sessions on environment, people, fragility, climate, you name it. There's a link on this page here where you can join, and it's tomorrow from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's the World Bank. And that's the upcoming events that I'm aware of this week. Yeah, questions, feel free to.
You have to know how to code to be at that event?
No, you don't have to know how to code. You can even volunteer to maybe run the event or be like a subject matter expert or just learn. You can just join a team. So this was done many years ago. I didn't join this in 2019, but from what I understand is there will be teams formed together, and whatever your strength is, you can just share that with the group. Yeah, it could be presentation, could be research, could be something else. Cool. So with that said, let's jump a little bit now on the technical side. So this is one resource that I wanted to share, this artificialanalysis.ai. Simply because there's so many models out there, right? There's multiple models, multiple vendors, there's different performance metrics that you can look at, like quality, speed, price, and different benchmarks. So the goal is, based on where you are in your company or your own private environment, how to utilize this, right? How do you take advantage of these generative AI services and features? And today I will cover anything on the Microsoft side. I happen to use it at work. I don't work for Microsoft. I happen to use it at work. I've used it extensively for several years now. And I'd like to show with you a little bit of how can you utilize it from no code. I have no idea what coding means. Let me utilize it. To I have an idea of what coding means, but I don't really know how to code. To, okay, I'm a developer. I know how coding works. Help me, take my skills to the next level. So we'll start with the first solution. And before I do that, I'll use this resource for, as you know, in generative AI, you need some kind of data source, right? So I'll use this resource called Microsoft Ignite 2024. Microsoft had an event in Chicago last month, and they shared several new updates, right? So if you look at the table of contents here, there's multiple updates on Windows and security, on industry, on AI, on data, you name it. So we'll use this as a knowledge base for some of our examples. And the first product that we'll cover is this Microsoft 365 Copilot, right? So all of you probably, or several of you use different Microsoft products. This is now Microsoft embedding these generative AI solutions into their products. So for example, you might use things like SharePoint, you might use things like Teams, which we're using now, live streaming here. You might use things like PowerPoint, Outlook, Word, you name it, right? The first one is this, and I'll go to the URL here so you can see copilot.microsoft.com. If you go here, and I'm using my work account here, so we'll have two, let me zoom in a little bit so maybe online people can see us. You basically have two versions. If you don't have what is called a Copilot license, you'll be able to see the web version of it. Basically, this was previously called Bing Chat, now it's called Copilot for the web. And basically what you're doing is you're doing a hybrid search, both on a large language model that's behind the scenes, usually GPT-4o or the latest, as well as Microsoft's own proprietary model. They haven't disclosed what they use in the backend, but it's some kind of mixture of both traditional search as well as web search, right? As you know, Microsoft has Bing search. They have indexed the web. They know, what content is out there, so they can retrieve that in real time. So you can do on the web, you can search anything. For example, what are some ideas for I don't know, something fun. Outdoor activities, build a snowman, indoor movies, local adventures, or just relax and recharge. Ideas here. Something you can ask, right? So pretty much like other products like ChatGPT, for example. But where the things get interesting is when you have this for your work mode, now you're able to access all your work information. And let me getting on my way. There you go. So let me share this slide here and talk a little bit about it. Because many of the products that we'll see today rely on this, what is called knowledge graph. So as you probably know, or if you've heard of, you need a knowledge base. You need some kind of information bank where your information lives. It so happens that for Microsoft products, we have something called Microsoft Graph. That's where your emails live, your Outlook information, your PowerPoint presentation, anything basically that you interact with, like emails, meetings, chats, calendars, and contacts. They live in this entity called Microsoft Graph. And different applications like PowerPoint, SharePoint, Outlook interact with this Microsoft Graph, and that's how you traditionally were able to extract information out of it. Now with the generative AI services, now you have the additional capability to offer better services to your users, right? So you have now large language model here on blue there. So basically now you're feeding information, right? You're retrieving it from your knowledge graph. You're grounding, and grounding basically means that you find a document in your knowledge graph that exists, and you can use that as an input to your large language model. That's how you're able to give answers to your users. So I'll show you how the user interface looks for Microsoft Copilot for the work mode, right? So you have things like prepare the meeting, right? I have a meeting here. Help me prepare for this meeting. Stay informed. What is the latest news from this person? Create a draft for an upcoming meeting, or improve my writing, or sharpen your writing, and so forth. You can also, by using Slash, you can interact with different people, files, meetings, emails, and so forth. So basically, this is now Copilot or some kind of large language model embedded into your work environment, right? And you can add content, you can add files, you can upload, you can interact with your SharePoint files, and so forth. So everything is in one user interface. All your prompts are tracked here. You can delete them, you can rerun them, you can look at them later, and this is one of the 3 products that I'd like to cover today. For questions, comments, feedback, open session, let me know if this is new to you, if you've used it in the past, or if you have any questions, let me know in person or online. Yeah.
Do you mind following the flow by clicking one of those examples or buttons?
Yeah, I'll go to yeah. Again, this is my work environment, right? So maybe if I go to web, let's say, maybe I can do stay on top of AI, summarized. So if I click on it, there's a pre-written template in the backend that just summarizes it. And if you want more templates, let me go to the YouTube page. Microsoft has some good templates that I was planning on covering, right? So for example, summarize team messages in Copilot in Teams. We'll see this, but you can say summarize Teams messages where I was mentioned this week, italicize important dates and deadlines and bold actions tonight. Look at another one because I have some, every now and then they share some really good prompts. How about this? You can also upload multiple documents, as you'll see, right? I didn't share that feature, but I'll share it next. You can say I've gathered rough ideas from a brainstorming session on a new product, and you can upload that. Document A has background on the audience and key features. Document B has design elements. From the 2 documents to draft the product specifications. The specification should include the overview, technical specification, market analysis, visibility, timeline. So you can be as detailed as you want. Cool. Let me run this so you can see how. So yeah, the prompt was summarize key findings on the latest publications on AI research. And it's giving me agentic AI, which probably you've heard multiple times. Sorry, it's giving me new AI training techniques, generative AI, workforce transformation. It's links here in the back. Yeah, that you can take. I was playing this video from the Satya Nadella's my presentation at Ignite. So there's this feature called Pages, which is basically a collaborative resource where now you can take whatever the output of this prompt was, you can add it, you can edit it, you can further fine tune it with generative AI, you can share it with others, right? So this resource also could be useful to you instead of copy pasting in a Word document and then sharing it. You can do that right here within Copilot. Cool. Let me move on to a little bit on the next. So we covered the report news, we covered. I wanted to have an idea of what data can we use there, and open data. This major cities has this initiative called open data. We have different environmental and demographics, education, business development, economical development, government operations, you name it. Anything that the city of DC can share, they've uploaded open data. So I'm looking at this base management policies, and I'm looking at this open data here, and I like to share it on with you so we can take a look and see how can we interact maybe with some of these. So these are some of the attributes. Some of them, might be familiar. Some of them might be new. But for example, there's things like installation date or date removed. Something about drainage, something about latitude, longitude. So there's some geospatial data here. I think I saw something about trees here, number of trees, for example, right? So I'll open that within Excel here. I downloaded this data. Let's see, there's around 93,000 record here. And yeah, let me zoom in a little bit so it's easier to read, right? So there's something called BP type. Again, I'm not super familiar with this data set, but I think just by skimming at it, I have a very rough idea what it means. Again, the goal is now to use something called Copilot within the application to kind of help me navigate what this is and what I'm looking at. So as with every product, this needs a little bit of setup. A good setup that I find to work with Excel is if you mark this as a table. So if you format as table, doesn't matter the format. you have better chances of Copilot basically understanding this is a table, this is my field, this is how many rows I have. So now that it's formatted as a table, I can go to Copilot here. And let's just interact with it, right? Again, I just downloaded this literally before this session, so let's look at it together. Okay, so first of all, it's telling me that it needs autosave in order to continue. Okay, turn it on. Okay, let's save it as, it looks like this was a CSV file. Maybe save it as something more modern, Excel file, and autosave on, upload. So this is uploaded now in the backend through through OneDrive to SharePoint. And that's how now it's becoming part of that knowledge graph that I shared before. And that's how Copilot now is able to interact with it. Okay, so again, there's like 100,000 records here. Maybe I should have picked a smaller data set, but what Copilot is doing is it's trying to analyze, it's trying to understand what data is here, what data types, how many fields I have, how many records I have. And it will give us a prompt very soon that says, okay, I'm ready, ask me anything, type of that approach. While this happens, maybe I can switch to another product. Maybe we can do, oh, looks like it's ready. What to do? So, minimize this. Looks like it's still doing it. Maybe I can show another demo, right? Let's do maybe in Word. It's similar, but it's another Copilot within the Microsoft arena, right? So first of all, you see this option that I have here that says draft with Copilot, right? So for example, I have a upcoming, looks like the Excel is done. Coming meeting, open data TC and there, and we please outline analysis we could perform to better understand it. Okay. So this is looking at my prompt. It's using data from the web and the data it's been trained on. So it's giving me suggestions here, right? So let me zoom in a little bit so we can see it better. Telling me you can do different analysis trends on air quality, which is correct. There's one of them: water quality, green infrastructure, waste management, climate change. Very, very similar to probably going to see at the World Bank event tomorrow. So you have a couple of options here in Word. You can keep it, you can regenerate it, you can create, make it more fun, right? Maybe I'm at a informal setting and I want to tone it down a little bit. So maybe summarize it as well. So it will rewrite it based on my new tone. And I can say, great, make this one pager, right? So this is an iterative approach that you can interact with. It's working on it. Let's see. More than a page and a half. It's okay. Maybe the title is too big, but you see the workflow, right? So I'm able to edit and modify it on the go as I'm interacting with my data. That was Word. Let me jump back to Excel here, right? So there's some prompts here that I can use. For example, how do I calculate formulas? How would I calculate the average, things like that, or create a chart or a pivot chart? I can start with something more basic. What is this data about? I think it's too large for me to analyze. Okay, maybe I should have picked a smaller. Maybe I could have said, let's see, maybe some kind of, let's say, analysis on some of the existing field.
How about just a basic SQL question, like how many records have rain barrel as a BMP type?
Yeah. Maybe I should have picked a smaller data set. Yeah. Let me filter for some of them. How about that? I pick maybe a couple of these categories. My laptop's trying to display too many things. 7H21. Maybe 2 categories. That's fine. I'm going to revisit this later. Again, maybe the data set or the Excel spreadsheet is too large for my MacBook Pro here. Maybe it's everything running in the background. It's just using too many registers. Okay. Let me go back to where we were. Again, this is one data set. Again, I could have picked something else, right? Or maybe I could have filtered before I downloaded it. All the information that we saw was here. Let's switch maybe to a different product. Maybe let's do PowerPoint, and let me start with a brand new PowerPoint here, just so you can see the workflow. So let me start Copilot here. And then let me see, create a presentation about the importance of product development. So very, very generic prompt, right? This is not something you'd probably want to enter. Maybe you want to reference another outline. Usually my workflow is I start with Word, I give it some information, some files, some data, and then I take the outline. I ask the Word Copilot, okay, can you please give me an outline of what I'm looking at? And then I take that outline and I put it into PowerPoint. And then in PowerPoint, I specify a little bit better the presentation, right? So Word is more for like exchanging information and knowledge. PowerPoint is more for like, okay, how do I present this to an audience? Great, so you saw my prompt was very generic, right? And I have the option here to maybe pick a designer, but let's see what it came up with. It says ethical AI and product development, very, very generic topic. Understanding ethical, oops. Sorry. Second, because my Excel is woke up finally. Again. Okay. And pop displays. There you go. So understanding ethical AI, impact on businesses, best practice from implementation, importance of understanding ethics, guidelines. Okay. Minimizing bias, benefiting all users, transparency, privacy, accountability, right? Things you'd expect from an ethical AI approach. Why it matters, you mitigate risks, you trust, you foster trust, you promote interoperability. You have an enhanced user experience, sustainable growth, positive brand reputation, right? So transparency, again, customer loyalty, growth, best practices, inclusive design. So this is more on the product side of it, right? So user perspective, minimizing bias, importance of transparency, clear communication. So 4 or 5 pillars if you notice the important part of it, right? So that was all done within a single prompt, right? Again, I can go to designer here, I can pick and choose what theme I like at a slide level. And if I'm working with something called PowerPoint templates, I can even customize things like, this is my presentation, please map it to my company's PowerPoint template so that I can have something ready for there. Yeah. close this and close Excel. It's taking too many resources. Still spinning. Okay, cool. Now I wanted to switch gears a little bit. So that was Copilot, right? So you saw the 365, a little bit of PowerPoint, Word. You can do this in Outlook, right? You can say summarize my email, summarize my upcoming meetings. And then Excel, as you saw, a little bit tricky on my end because I have so many things running probably. But the goal is to use this wherever you are, wherever your application is, wherever your data is. That's the goal. Now switching gears, this is the second out of 3 products I'll present. So I'll talk about. This is something called Copilot Studio. Now the goal here is great with Copilot 365. I have a user interface. I can interact with that company data, but that's pretty much it. I can't really customize much of it. It's more of a service. I don't have any extensibility options, right? Like as you heard in the keynote speech. So with Studio now, I have an option with low code or no code solution that I can extend the capabilities of Copilot. So pricing wise, I wanted to mention, if I'm not mistaken, the 365 Copilot is per user per month. It's $30 as of this moment. And Copilot Studio is $200 per month. But with that, you get something called 25,000 messages per month. And a message is basically a one-way communication, either from the user to Copilot or from Copilot to the user. So if I say hello and the Copilot says back to me, hello, how are you? That's 2 messages, right? So basically 25,000 of those per month, $200. That's what you get with Copilot Studio. So let me switch here to this other window, this incognito window where I have my Copilot Studio set up. And when you log in, you'll see different options, right? And before the Ignite, I think, or slightly before, Microsoft changed their terminology. They called everything copilots. Now they're calling everything agents. So if you create something, like an AI solution, they're calling them agents. So wherever you see here agents, that means some kind of AI assistant. You can point it to some data set and you can customize how it looks and feels. So this option called Explore Agents, right? So let me zoom in a little bit. So I have things like maybe you want to travel, custom common travel questions. This website Q&A is very common. I've used it multiple times. So basically you have a website as a company or as your own project. You want to somehow retrieve data from it and surface it to your users. Case management, financial insights, sustainability, weather. You can even have voice services, citizen services, and then some other ones coming as well. So I want to show you how easy it is to build one. So what I'll do here is I'll go to create, and it's asking me what do you want to pick. So if you remember, I said, great, I want to work with this data set called Book of News, right? There's so much content here. I'll copy the URL, and I'll build a simple website Q&A. So it's asking me, what do you want to call this? Let's call this Book of News. You can change the icon. You can add a description, instructions, polite and professional tone. Again, you can do this. On the knowledge, I can be very specific with what I want to have. So let me delete whatever is there. And let me add a knowledge. And I have several options here, right? I have public website, SharePoint, and some more advanced ones that are coming soon. For example, like, or already there, maybe I need to create this first. Yeah, once I create it, then I can integrate more data sources like Fabric, right? That's the new combined ecosystem of data from Microsoft. Azure services, right? Like SQL or other services. Third-party vendors like GitHub, like Jira, right? Salesforce, Stack Overflow, SAP, ServiceNow, you name it. So I'll go with the public website. I'll paste the link here, and I'll say add. And I'm not the owner of this website, so I'll say add. So what it's doing in the back end, it's cataloging. That's right. It's taking this information. It's a public knowledge. Let me see. Do I have to zoom out a little bit? There you go. Okay, so I'll say create. So this is setting up my agent. It's looking at what information, the tone that I set it to reply to me. It's looking at the information that I have. It's seeing that it's a public website, so it's not downloading all the data of that public website in a repository. It's actually relying on Bing search because it's a public website as a connector to retrieve data live for this public website. So we'll see this now. The description is loading. And let me go to knowledge. I want to make sure this is, yeah, status is ready. Again, if you have a large website or when you upload maybe a PDF or an Excel spreadsheet, right, this might take a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes to load. Looks like we're ready. And again, this message here now, let me focus on the right. I can customize it. This is out of the box. What are the latest news from Ignite? Right, so it's looking at my knowledge, and there was an option. There's an option that you can specify. I'll go back in a second, where you can specify only respond based on your knowledge, right? So don't go on the internet, don't look at other data sources, don't look at your trained data. So basically, try to minimize hallucinations or maybe like creating content out of thin air. So you can say only look at my uploaded data set. So this is saying the latest news, key updates, new products, Copilot and AI stack, Copilot again. Oops, sorry. Enhancements on Studio, emphasized commitment to security, and then it's giving me this link. And if I go on it, it will open the same link that I use as a resource. Let me zoom out here. And let me go now to my knowledge. And there's an option here to edit. And maybe it's here. So look at this. Allow the AI to use its own general knowledge, right? Right now it's enabled. Let me disable that. So what this means is, and now I'm focusing my agent only to whatever data set I uploaded, right? So I'll do that. So I created it. Let me go back here. Let me ask something irrelevant to what I uploaded, right? So any ideas? Any prompts? What should I prepare for on a snowy day? I don't know if it's going to snow this winter, but I can ask that prompt. Right, so it's saying, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I can help you with that, and no information was found that could help answer this, you know? So it's only able to retrieve information on my book of news. Great. I can go back to my knowledge here, and I can add more knowledge. I can do maybe a SharePoint, or I can drag and drop, right? I can do click here to browse. I can upload more information. So I have another file that I can maybe share with you. Let me open it. This would be probably a good idea for a different Copilot, but let me add it. This is a PDF. If you joined our session last time, David presented this. This is basically a report from the Department of Agriculture that covers different metrics, like what is the wheat production in the US, grains, rice, oil seeds, sugar, you know. So there's a lot of text, and then somewhere here in the end, after the table of contents, we have this charts, right? And they're in PDF, right? You have your output, your supply, maybe you have it by month, or maybe you have it by year, right? Grains, oil seeds, a very semi-structured data, I want to say, right? There is some structure to it, but again, this is a PDF. So I add it to my knowledge. Once this is ingested, and actually, let me go and delete this, so it's not confused, right? You don't want to make a Copilot that has basically multiple data sources, right? You want to focus maybe on something very specific, maybe on USDA side or AI and book of news. Just pick one and utilize that. This might take a couple of seconds. We'll go back to this when this is ready. But I wanted to show you something that you can do once you have this, right? Once you have this, you can do something called publish. What that means is now you're making it available for channels to access it, right? And with channels, let me go to it. You can have different options. You can have this maybe integrated into your Slack. You can have this maybe integrated into your Microsoft Teams. You can have a demo website. You can have a custom website, an app, right? Skype, Facebook, email, as well as other integrations here. So I'll share with you what I've built for my company quickly. This is just a custom UI, UX that we built for our own custom assistant. And I work for a real estate association, so a lot of the prompts you'll see here are real estate related. Our company has something called membership guide. In the back end, I configure this to only look at our company website as well as multiple other PDF files. So telling me a little bit about the company, what this consumer guide does, how can you reference it, and then what can you access. So if I open it, it'll take me to the consumer guide and what information it has. So I just wanted to show you how you can customize it, right? You don't have to you use the look and feel that comes out of it. You can customize it very, very simply, CSS. You can make it look your own. Cool. Any questions about this Copilot Studio? This is second product. There are other more advanced topics called topics. I didn't cover them, but basically we can customize everything from conversation start. So remember there was a message in the beginning that greeted us. You can customize that as well. So what is your welcome message? What is your maybe greeting, your goodbye, your thank you, as well as something like what happens when a user needs to sign in or fallback. So there's a whole security side of this that you can customize your Copilot. And the other thing is, as you heard in the keynote speech, you can add an action, right? These are integrations with other platforms, right? So you can integrate it with an Excel spreadsheet, or you can integrate weather forecast or anything that you have access to, or it's available here. You can integrate it, and you can say, when my user says this, please access this resource and run. Cool. That's all I had on Copilot Studio. Let me move to the third one. Again, that was the price for that. Hide Teams so I can look better. So I'm showing here now the third resource from Microsoft called Azure AI Foundry, right? This was previously known Azure AI Studio. They renamed it to Azure AI Foundry. This is just a chart that on the x-axis has different models from different vendors, and we'll see them closely. The latest one I have here, the highest performance ones are GPT-4, Llama 3.1, 4 Turbo, 4.0, 4.0, and then the O1 that was recently released, right? And then on the y-axis, I have different data sets, right? Some of them might be familiar to you, like social, multiple context understanding, right? MMLU, truthful Q&A. These are different data sets, and this is how each model performs on each of these data sets on average, right? They have thousands or hundreds of thousands question answer pairs. This is how different models perform. So you see there's a trend here, right? I mean, this is probably sorted by performance, average performance. So some of them do really well. For example, let's see, in open book Q&A, somehow they figured out, maybe because they were trained on book type of data, where you have context and you ask question and you get an answer. Let's see, open book Q&A. Open book Q&A. You want to look at it, what it looks like. The question is, there's a question. It's almost like an auto complete, right? You have to select from multiple answers. The sun is responsible for puppies learning new tricks, maybe. Children growing up and getting old, flowers wilting in a vase, plants sprouting, blooming, and waiting. These are the options, A, B, C, D, right? So you plants sprouting, blooming, and waiting. The most correct answer here. Right, so this is an example, right? This has, say, 11,000 rows, right? So this is now Copilot, sorry, not, this is now all of this GPT-4o or Llama or Mistral or whatever the vendor using, how they perform on that data set, what is the average performance, that open book. Cool. So yeah, this is the model catalog in AI Foundry. Some latest releases, right? So there's models like Phi. Phi models is a collection of models from Microsoft. Meta released their Llama 3.3 model. Mistral looks like released their own latest. So you get to see a little bit, different vendors. You have the industry, maybe if you're specific in that. Inference task, maybe you want to do image, because we also have vision models here, translation. Translation, chat completion, image classification, speech recognition, multi-object tracking, audio generation, you name it, right? There's one. You can also fine tune this, right? Maybe you start with a base model and you can fine tune it for a specific task. Great. So I wanted to show you now, okay, this is great. You can take a model, let's say maybe that completion 5 for mini. You can click on it. It will give you a little bit more information, what it does. Model architecture, how many parameters it has, what the inputs and the outputs, text, and supported languages, use cases, safety, evaluation, responsible AI consideration, right? And then, well, you can say deploy, and you can do deploy here. You can log in to your infrastructure, and you can select your project and your resources. It will deploy it in the back end. And then after that, you'll get an endpoint and an API key. So once you have those two things now as a developer, an endpoint and API key, I can now integrate it into my app, right? I can say, okay, this application in the backend uses 5.4, uses GPT-4o, whatever it uses. I know how to integrate it. I know how to interact with it. I can implement that. So I'll show you some examples of how you can get started with this. Yeah, cover this. I'll show you some examples from Streamlit. Streamlit is a very useful user interface library where you can build something really quickly, right? You don't have to know HTML, CSS. It's built in Python. You can say, hey, I want a simple chatbot looking product or feature. Well, this is the code, Streamlit and OpenAI. These are the only two libraries that I'm going to need. So they have a GitHub repository, and that's what I used to start. And then I started customizing it, developing it more. But that was very easy for me to start using it. And I'll show you what I have here in the back end. This is what I built based on that application. So this is my application that I use at work. We have our guidelines. We have a presentation on how to use this product. We have an evaluation form. It's important to get feedback and how to reach to our data science team. So the first one is a generic, large language model you can interact with. Caution here that, please always verify and evaluate the output of these models. But now I have the option here, what I implemented in the backend. I deployed multiple models, right? I have GPT-4o, I have Mistral, and each one I click one, every time I click one, it gives me some information, and then the link where I can learn more, right? Phi is from Microsoft and Llama is from Meta, right? I have this, and I can do hello. And let's see, I have my PDF here, so I can take that, upload it, and I can say, please summarize for me. Hopefully this is small enough that it can fit in my context window. And then what it's doing now is looking at my document, it's reading it, it's telling me this report, updated projections for various commodities. Key highlights include sugar, wheat, coarse grains, and I can ask, right? So maybe I can ask a very specific question, right? Let me find something here. That's what we did last time. Bring this. Let me pick sugar, right? Oh, maybe sugar. Let's pick something from sugar. Why not? U.S. sugar supply for 2024-2025 increased to 14 million tons, right? This metric system. Maybe I'll ask, what is the US sugar supply for 24? Let's ask that. What was the US sugar supply for 24? Okay, it's not directly provided in the summary. Okay, so it looks like it mentions, however, it mentions that the revised downward. Okay, so it didn't exactly find my answer. What are some highlights? Sugar. Sugar, just general sugar. Revised downward. Okay, let's see, right? We have our resource here. Pro value. Unchanged. Imports increase. Beet sugar is decreased. Okay, so maybe I have to take a look, but what I see here says increased by this raw value. Again, you have to validate, right, for what you're looking at. Let me ask the same prompt in a different model, right? Let me try Mistral maybe. So the PDF is still in my memory. Let's see, let's try another model just to see how easy it is to interact and swap. Okay, so this one is able to tell me that beginning, production, imports, total supply, total use, ending stock. Okay. 13.5 million. Somewhere here, there's a 13.5 million. Have to find it, but yeah. This is one example, right? You upload a document, you interact with it. Again, double, triple check it, confirm it's accurate. But you see how easy it is to interact with the model. You can change different models. You can customize the language. You can customize the report and so forth. Cool. This was the third model. Let me go now to, so this was the website. Yeah, I can share this resource with you, but this is a general resource on going back to 365 foundations, right? Of AI fundamentals, how to use Copilot for 365, and how to basically start this whole approach. Let me go to one page here that yeah, it covers things like large language models, the graph connector that we talked about, different apps, as well as the web and different applications like this. As things like sales report, insights, right, based on documents, privacy behind it, and what features these products offer across. Some prompting 101, right? So generate prompts. Let's go, for example, here. There's a to do and what not to do. Here, for example, right? So summarize information. That's a typical use case. Transform document into slides, maybe catch up on missing items. Let me do some, yeah. So again, this is a good one, right? So you have a goal. What is my goal? Generate 3 to 5 bullet points. And this translates across different products that we've seen today. What is the context, right? I'm preparing for a meeting with this client to discuss my brand campaign. What is my source? Focus on email and Teams chat since June, right? And then what is the expectation? Use simple language so I can get up to speed. So some do's and don'ts, right? This is important that apply, I think, to any GenAI product out there, right? So be clear and specific. Don't be vague, right? Give me something. Be very clear and specific. Keep it conversational, right? Give it examples. That's useful. Ask for feedback, right? Check for accuracy. That's very important. Part of your ethical AI use cases. By details, with slide, right? So those are some do's and don'ts there. And yeah, don't change topics, right? Don't confuse it. Because what happens is your conversation is kept in what is called the conversation window, right? So then every time you interact with a large language model, it's retrieving that conversation window and it might be confused. You can say things like, I want it in this format. Say things in like a bullet point. You can say things in like a table. You can be very specific. You can also you can also do coding, right? I'm not gonna cover that today because that's a whole topic on its own, but you can use things like VS Code, for example, or any editor. Now it will help you create code in a faster way. It can help you troubleshoot code in a better way than before. These are some examples. This is public information. We can share this. And yeah. Let's see what else I had. We talked about the language graph, overview of 365, where it stands, right? So this is your different tenant. Copilot is there. Or different data sources. You can also use something called Azure AI Search. That's the search service within Azure that helps you do something called hybrid search. You can do like keyword search. That's traditional pre-GenAI search based on keywords. You can do embedded type of search, right? Where now you embed everything into a high dimensional space, and then you're able to retrieve relevant information. You can add connectors. All these connectors are available there. The Streamlit, open source. There's different examples here. And then on resources, we have the different YouTube pages. You have Microsoft YouTube page. I have this person here, Lisa Crosby. She does great content on Microsoft products. And another one is Microsoft Mechanics. They also do a great job on sharing anything on Microsoft. Cool. So I think that's all I had. I have some other slides, but yeah, let me open up to questions from your audience before we share some more content. This is useful to you. Have you used this before? You interested in learning more? I'm curious. Don't be shy.
I'll bite. I am a college student interested in the information systems space. So that's AI for systems engineering. So I'm actively searching for a full-time role now in that maybe consulting space. Just trying to see what's out there and what AI can do.
Yes, so some other hands. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was wondering, compared to the productivity and, like the better outcome, like Microsoft Copilot versus ChatGPT versus Gemini, like based on the person who are, using all these tools, like what's your own take of, like the advantage and disadvantage between?
Yeah. I've used all three. Lately, I've been using more Copilot, a little bit Gemini personally. But honestly, I see the greatest. Usually, what I see, right? There's a new feature that's coming out from a major provider. It could be Anthropic, it could be Gemini, it could be Copilot, it could be OpenAI, and then usually all the other providers like quickly follow up. It's almost like a like a smartphone era where where's your smartphone comes in on Android or iPhone or whatever, with better camera, better battery, better whatever feature than next competitor. So I don't see fundamental differences across all of them. It makes you more productive, more efficient. Even pricing is very similar. I think $30 a month, $20 a month for each ChatGPT or Copilot. Otherwise, they're also just what is integrated with your workflow. If you're using, for example, Microsoft products, maybe this might be easy for you to integrate using but again, I would say if you have something mission critical, don't just use one provider, right? Use multiple or use multiple LLMs so that you have similar to traditional machine learning. You have like an ensemble model, right? You use multiple. So let me go back to this slide where you can see the different metrics, right? So maybe if you're looking at quality, O1 is the latest and greatest for OpenAI. It's doing really well. If you're looking for speed, O1 Mini is doing now one of the fastest. And if you're looking for price, the O1 is most expensive, but if you care about speed and quality, you do that. If you care about price, I just want the cheapest, great. Get O1 Mini, it's $0.2 per 1 million tokens. Right? So 1 million tokens means large book, 300, 400 pages worth. There's other things maybe you're interested in, right? Quality versus speed, maybe evaluations, right? Reasoning and knowledge, maybe scientific reasoning, maybe your LLM is deploying it for scientific reasoning. Again, O1 was specifically designed for that. Quantitative reasoning, coding. So I would say a context window, this is another one, right? So maybe you have an example where this is great, but the PDF you shared is only 1 megabyte. My PDFs are 30 megabyte. They won't even fit in my application. What do I do? So there's two approaches there. The simplest one is, okay, can I use another model that's much bigger? There's not a lot of models you can go higher, right? You see the context window here is around 128K. It started with like 30K, 32K, and all the way to 130. The models have 200K, 300K. The latest from Gemini have 1 million, right? So you don't have to store anything in a database. You can just provide that as in-memory data. But a better approach is to use something called retrieval augmented generation. You have a knowledge SQL database or some kind of persistence storage. You have it interact with your large language model, and there's specific ways to do that. That way you can store whatever you want in the back end. You just interact with your data through the large language model, which is some kind of retrieval. Yeah, go ahead.
I found that even if a model has a really large context window, if you start to use all that, it starts to not really remember everything you gave it. It can't really understand all of that at once. It'll kind of lose information.
What was that? If you have a large language window for those online, after a while, your model might be confused. Again, it goes back to how these large language models are built, right? They're built to have your conversation history as an input every time they give you an output. So they look at that, and if that is aligned with one topic or two topics, if it's pretty coherent and pretty easy to understand, great. But if you have a lot of data and then you start changing topics, or if you start interacting with it, they might lose their focus. Yeah.
Oh, I don't understand this token limit, especially in the first chart on top up there, which was the price. What does it mean?
So this is context window. Context window means if you have a PDF that is 2 million tokens.
What is token? Is a word?
Good question. It's not exactly a word. So let me show you this tool called Tokenizer. And let me just copy some text, okay? So this is the text, and each color here is a different token. So open is one token, AI is one token, apostrophe S is one token, face large is one token. Face something is usually a token, because the way that these models are created is we need to break down text into something we can work with, right? We cannot be words because words are very variable in length, especially in English, right? It could be 2-character, 1-character word, hi or or it could be like multi-character. So tokens is basically what we figured out. It's about 3/4 of a word. Let's say a word that we use as a unit of measuring data, basically in the GenAI world. When you say 2 million context window, that means you can more or less fit 2 million words in its memory. Yep.
So is there a way to calculate the ROI for Microsoft 365 Copilot? Let's say if you're working with a client and we're interested to enroll it for their environment if they're a small business. So usually they're asking, is there any way to calculate the ROI for it?
Yeah. So the question is great. This is great, but what is the return on investment, right? What do I get out of this? How can I utilize it to improve my business? Maybe increase sales or have more customers. So that goes more towards like your business function and structure, right? So I would say, what are your current metrics? How are you measuring success? How are you measuring your growth, your sales, your customer acquisition, whatever they are? Have a benchmark before you do any changes, right? It's almost like a controlled experiment. So have those in place. Start small. You don't have to give this access to your entire company. Maybe if you're a small business, just one person should be enough. And then start with a very small prototype or small use case. It could be someone that contacts your website after hours, right? You don't have to be on behind the scenes here answering questions. It could be an automated assistant that basically answers trivial questions. Hey, what is your company about? How long will it take to do shipping in the US? Things like that. Where can I find more information? So do that, and then in the back end, with any of the solutions, you can track metrics. You can track how many people interacted with it, what time of the day. You can even, if you do a custom solution, you can have a feature where you can say, was this answer good, bad? So kind of like feedback, user feedback. And with Copilot Studio, you can have an idea of how many people interacted with my product, what time, and then that will give you an idea of how much you saved. From what I heard at the keynote, I think Microsoft is trying to come up with some kind of Copilot dashboard that tells you, based on the interactions we've seen from your platform, from your utilization of Copilot, you probably saved an estimate of X dollars. They're trying to come up with that, but for now, I would say you have to look at your business, and you have metrics now. How many people are using it, for what use cases, and hopefully that saves you some time and GenAI. Yep. Any other questions? Yeah.
Just a question. I'm curious. Have you ever thought that what will happen like in 5 years with all this? Do you have any anticipation? Just like
Maybe we should ask AI. What will happen in 5 years? I don't know. What
because, 5 years ago, we never imagined this.
I would say, yeah, the invention, right, of large language models just catapulted the whole area, right? Everything just skyrocketed after that. So it's a major milestone. The major shift we see now is towards something called agents. Something basically that's a large language model that has access to tools, not just one that is user interface. You can chat with it. Now you can ask it to access your calendar. You can ask it to access your hotel booking, your flight booking, your credit card. Things can go wrong there, so be careful. Assuming it's trustworthy, right? So it will do the research for you. You just tell it an objective. I'm looking for a getaway during this time. This is my budget, my preference. Do your thing.
To select ChatGPT or Copilot, whatever it is, an agent for me to just go.
Yeah.
Microsoft, Google, and everything related to the bring it.
Yeah, I think the trend will be more specialized, and eventually process humans for agents. One that does this task, one that does this task, one that does this task. So anything, think about it, right? Anything that you want to achieve in the digital world, at some point, all these agents will take over. So you want to make a call and change your address somewhere. You want to make a call and close your account with a phone provider, open a new account, whatever. Just tell them the objective. You give them the consent, and again, you also parameterize a little bit. In this scenario, contact me, right? If something doesn't go according to plan, don't just make a decision for me. Come back to me and let me approve or disapprove. Yeah, I think that's the goal, where things that are taking time and effort from us and are, I want to say, trivial and safe, go for it. We're gonna let them do the heavy work and come back to you. Okay, this is what I found. This is how much it's gonna cost you. Let's say a trip, right? This is the best research I found. The best time to buy it is on Tuesday because prices are better. I recommend you buy it, and then you click yes or no. Yeah. The questions, anyone to the chat, anybody online?
No questions. Let's stop the recording.
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap the recording here. Thank you everyone for joining us online and in person. Again, this was one of several sessions. We're probably going to do a more deep dive one. I see several people contacting us about maybe coding. How do I utilize coding, right? If you're on the higher end of the spectrum. But again, this was just anything on Microsoft side. And thank you everyone for coming here, and thank you everyone for joining us online. And thanks Jamie and Microsoft for hosting us.
Is there any calendar that